What's up, guys? So I want to discuss the seasonal aspect of training and nutrition in this video. So starting off with nutrition, one thing to kind of mention at first is how our diet was kind of different over the seasons. So over summer, for example, we're eating more fresh fruit and ancestry, right? So this was like hundreds, thousands of years ago. More fruit, more vegetables. We were foraging for more. We were eating more honey, for example, because bees are around. The meat we were eating was also leaner over the summer because those animals were more active. So they tended to be leaner than they were over winter months where they're hibernating or not moving as much. Over the winter diet, we have more preserved foods, so more like smoked and dried foods, more salted foods, things like plants and vegetables, or even like jarred or canned or preserved, or even like fermented in certain ways. So that stuff was more over winter. High protein diet as well, but that stuff was more fatty. Like I said before, the animals are less active. They usually have more fat on them. We store a lot of carbohydrates as well, like nuts, seeds, legumes. So, and the meals tend to be heartier, right? So like, think about, for example, Thanksgiving or Christmas. Those meals tend to be huge on those holidays. And that's more towards the winter months. Whereas summer, we're more like grazers, right? We kind of like forage or do smaller meals or kind of pick and peck at things more so than we do bigger meals like we do on holidays, which tend to be over winter. So that stuff isn't necessarily coincidental. It's kind of entrained in our circadian biology. So for nutrition, there's this concept called the ancestral diet. I'm not going to butcher it. Michael Rose talks about this here. I believe he's an evolutionary biologist. This video is 35 minutes long, but it's super interesting. So in it, he talks about fruit flies. The ones that were fed an ancestral diet tend to live longer than the ones that were not. Whatever an ancestral diet means to fruit flies, I have no idea. I can't remember. Watched this video a long time ago, but definitely watch it. Definitely more informative than I can give you in this video. Super cool stuff too. And the guy looks like he's like 30 something or 40 something years old, and he's actually 60 or something in the video. It's crazy. Anyway, so that's about aging as well. So with this ancestral diet, the idea is you should be eating kind of how your ancestors ate. That's kind of like the main premise, and I think it does make a lot of sense. So it'll be kind of more science on in the future, but basically, like I said, the gist of it, more carbohydrates, more fresh fruit, that type of stuff over summer makes a lot of sense. Things like fattier meat or more fat in general kind of over the winter. And even like your nutrition in terms of like your body composition, right? Like gaining more fat over the winter kind of makes more sense because then you're less active, kind of putting some fat on, and then undulating, doing something like weight loss or conditioning more so over the summer so you could shed some of that fat off, and you're leaner and more active. So it makes more sense to kind of change your training in that matter. Think about this logically, right? Over winter, you're typically a little less active than you are over summer. So you're going to focus more on gaining functional mass, things like muscle and bone even is functional mass. So that kind of stuff makes more sense to do over winter because then you could use most of the energy you're storing to commit to those things. Over summer, what we're going to do is we're going to get leaner. So this is how I organize my training. So if you guys are interested in this, like stick along on the weekly flex. Is stuff I post every single week. And mostly for my training, I'll post more in the chat as well. But basically what we're going to do, typically right now, so it's March 20th right now in the spring, I'm going to be finishing up my like strength hypertrophy phase. So focusing on gaining muscle, gaining strength, kind of more so on gaining muscle for me right now, but it's kind of a mix of the two always. And then from there in the later April/early May, I'll really focus on conditioning. So I'll do a block of more general physical preparation. So more higher repetitions, lower intensity, working on increasing volume, working on increasing my work capacity. So a lot of my clients, for example, when they're new, they get absolutely gassed from the warm up, which is a giant set of bodyweight exercises, what I typically do, just to condition them to do big gross motor movement patterns. So big movements, a lot of muscles, live joint angles, for example. So things like push-ups, squats, rows, a lot of stuff with the bands we'll do, for example, for high repetitions, like 10, 15, 20 reps, just to build up their general capacity to do work. Because if they get gassed from the warm up, it's going to be really hard to do a high quality workout if the first 10, 15 minutes of low intensity stuff is really difficult. So building that really good foundation, that really good base before moving into harder training. Then over summer, what we're doing, at least for me, I like to do a lot more running outside. I don't like running, but I like exercising outside, get some more vitamin D that way too, because you could store it. So getting more vitamin D, getting more sunshine, doing more conditioning or cardio outside. You can bring kettlebell outside. You can do bodyweight circuits outside, which I'll be posting all summer long in the blog here as well. And that way, when you're more active over the summer months, you could eat those carbohydrates more in excess, things like fruit, things like produce, for example, that I kind of mentioned before, especially kind of like the sugary fruit. And you're going to be using it because now you're actually working out more and doing more conditioning, like burning more calories with that food, for example. So long story short, build more conditioning in the warmer months. So kind of like that springtime to summertime, building more strength and building more size kind of over the winter months is what we're looking to do. So this isn't like necessarily like a 30-day fix. This is a long-term commitment. We want to be doing this over 1, 2, or many years. So the progress is going to be a little slower, but better over the long term because you're never burning out, right? You're never getting that pattern overload or potential injury of doing the same reps over and over because you want to do stuff kind of on like a continuum, right? We don't just always want to be in strength and hypertrophy. Sometimes you might want to work power or speed. Sometimes you might want to work on strength endurance or muscular endurance, for example. Other times we might want to be working on speed strength or strength speed. Like these are all different things and different ways to train, and that'll make you more well-rounded as a human or an athlete, whatever you want to think about. So that's the seasonality of training. Again, stay in the loop here in the blog, kind of posting more of that stuff over the summer. So you'll see it's kind of changing more from like strength-based to more kind of conditioning-based stuff over the summer here, as long as some of the programs as well. They're going to be more reflective of that coming up soon. If you guys got any questions on this type of stuff you've ever experienced before, if you ever want to try it or you're curious about certain things, drop them down in the comments and do my best to answer those.